Well, hello to everybody. Mike Haggerty here again at the Consiglio Wellness Center Healthrap, and so excited tonight. We've got a special guest with us, Julie Diamond, who is a personal trainer. Julie lives in California, and we kind of had a strange way of connecting. We can maybe get into that a little bit later, but Julie, it's so great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, Mike. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Julie, before we even get started, like I said, we had sort of a strange introduction that we were in a group, a Facebook group that I kind of picked you out of the pack. You've moved around a little bit recently, but essentially being a personal trainer, our commonality was that we were both in this group called Ageless, and you focus a lot on longevity and working with your clients in that respect. And you also had mentioned to me that even though you work with younger clients, sometimes your focus oftentimes is still with longevity. Why don't you give us just a little bit of background on yourself and, kind of what got you started into personal training?
Great. I will. Longevity is very important to me, partly because that's what got me into personal training. So when I was in my early mid-20s, both my parents fell very ill, terminally ill, and I lost them young. I was at the time in the fashion industry because that's what I had studied in college, textiles and marketing. Um, I was running back and forth to New York. I was living on the East Coast at the time. And as I watched my parents and I watched their illnesses, I had just the recurring thought that if they just continued some sort of program or started some sort of program early in life, their nutrition was pretty good, but they didn't work out, they didn't take care of themselves. And the stress especially built up, a lot of the mental stress. So it wasn't just the physical that they didn't take care of themselves. The stress release we get from working out, doing activities, doing sports is as important as the physical. And I made a decision that I was somewhat over the fashion industry, and if I could just make a difference in someone's life, then I was going to switch over to fitness. And so I started just collecting certifications and slowly but surely training a client here, training a client there. And then it got to where I built up my business and I left the fashion industry and entered fitness.
That's quite a journey, and so at this present time, maybe putting the cart a little bit before the horse here, but what does your business look like? You're located out in California, and a lot of what you're doing right now is through the internet and Zoom and so
Everything.
on. Yeah, oh, everything.
100%. So I'm out in Los Angeles, and before COVID hit, I was probably 90% out in the field. So I would go to people's homes, I would go to sets, I would go to studios, things like that. And that's the way I was training clients. Once COVID hit, I had to do a quick turnaround, and I asked all my clients to go on FaceTime or Zoom. And it was just a whole new way of training. And through social media, and through just my clients trusting me and let's figuring this out together. Not now, 100% of my business is online. I've also started a class twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 in the morning. It's just a 30-minute class, and it's a HIIT class, high intensity interval training. And I have every age, people from actually around the world taking the class, which is really fun. And we record the class in case somebody misses it. And so I started that because I wasn't going into studios teaching classes any longer, obviously with COVID. And then I started doing videos as well. So with this last go around, all my clients, everybody is still online, 90% of, no, 99, 100% right now. I only had one client that before Christmas I saw in person. I had two, and then we got shut down again here in LA. So we went back online.
Julie, what would you say to a new person that's just kind of like maybe they've been sedentary most of their life? Maybe a lot of the people that we work with and at the CWC, they're teachers, and they really haven't been in the fitness game. Maybe they played sports in high school, but since that time they haven't done anything. And now all of a sudden, middle age has sort of crept up on them. What would you tell them? I mean, how do you get into the game?
You know, baby step at a time. I what is the quote? You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. That's what I tell them. And I tell them not to be hard on themselves. There's enough people out there pounding, pounding, pounding. That's not fitness, in my opinion. Fitness is about longevity. Fitness is about the long haul. And you don't have to go in thinking that you're going to come back and be this amazing athlete, or you have to train 5, 6 times a week and whatnot. Find what works for you, set your goals, and set baby steps. So you have realistic goals that you can actually achieve the first 2 weeks. Don't look at a month out. You can have goals for a month out, but just really focus on what you're doing these 2 weeks and stick to it. And then after those, just how I set up my clients. And after these 2 weeks, then we'll focus on the next 2 weeks. And then now all of a sudden we have a month of success behind us. Then we can look back at the good success we've done and allow us to start looking into the future. So just getting into it slowly without all at once. I mean, it's that same every New Year's, everyone jumps in it at once. And about this time of year, once the end of January comes, most people's New Year's resolutions are out the window.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a health coach myself, I also know that you have to meet people where they're at, right? And
Yes.
people are coming into the game at a different place all the time. Some, like I said, maybe they've been working out a little bit, but they haven't been doing anything with their nutrition. And some people are
Right.
just the opposite. They've done a little bit here, but not something there. And it is something to say that there is some totality to this. There's like doing a little bit of everything. I don't think that you can jump in this and say, well, I'm just going to work out and neglect your nutrition. You can't just
Right.
do nutrition and then say, well, I'm not doing any walking, I'm getting no movement. So it is sort of like putting the package together.
Exactly. Exactly. And I love what you just said, meeting someone where they're at. So, for example, the example you just gave me, somebody who, a teacher who's not been in the fitness game in, years and years and years and whatnot, coming into meeting them where they're at, meeting them, that they don't have to go all in, all at once, all of a sudden. It gets overwhelming that way.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that person that's kind of in the beginning. What would you tell them is sort of like the most important first steps? What do we need to do to get them in the game and maybe get them through the first 5 or 6 months?
A lot of it's mental. I tell them that their mind's going to go first. Their body is usually pretty capable, but their mind's going to talk them out of it. And so they have to get a really strong mindset. I set them up with water. Most people don't drink enough water. So first thing in the morning, um, before they eat or drink anything else, they're guzzling water. I want them to guzzle 8 to 10 ounces of water and just really, really absorb that. And then throughout the day, they're going to be more thirsty. And then we'll set up a periodization program for somebody like that. I would set up a program where we would set up I would probably go 2 to 3 months with me setting up 6 months, but with them 2 to 3 months, but having them really just focus on the first 2 weeks. And then setting goals. Have them set
Mhm.
goals. What are their goals? Because everyone's goals are different. Some people want to look good, some people want to feel good, some people want to run a marathon.
What would you say some of the biggest myths are in the health and fitness industry?
One myth, which I think is still around and cracks me up, um, that you're going to get bulky using heavy weights for women. And that's a big myth. I mean, we can bulk you up if you want that, but
Yeah.
more than likely you're going to need drugs. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Exactly.
like less than 1% of women who are going to get really bulky. And that's probably the biggest myth that I still hear
Mhm.
all the time.
We were
Um,
we were also talking, in that regard, to me, I hear a lot of myths. I'm sort of a self-proclaimed biohacker myself. Like I experiment with some things at the same time. I do different types of workouts. I engage in different supplements and at times. Um, I- but I think that the baseline is that it's movement and exercise. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's movement and exercise and and eating somewhat healthy, making sure you're getting your greens, making sure you're getting a variety.
Yeah, I like that. And personally, I'm probably a bit of a food snob. People that know me, I'm definitely, I don't know that I'm picky. I like what I like, and I know what I feel is helping my body and serves me well versus those things that don't. Um,
Right.
I'm really careful with the hydrogenated oils in particular. I'm a big fan of Dr. Kate Shanahan and some of her research and sugar. Essentially, I'm very careful with that. But before we got started here, you had mentioned like 80-20, and I like that
Hmm.
idea that you're sort of like living a life. I wouldn't say moderation because it's not perfectly 50-50, but 80-20 sort of keeps you on the right track. Is that
It's
fair?
yeah, it's balanced. And it keeps you on the right track. And for the most part, 80-20 means for me, because I'm working Monday through Friday, it's easy for me to be pretty clean with my nutrition and get in my workouts. On the weekends, I play. So
Hmm.
that 80-20 rule will change a little bit. If I'm going on vacation, then for a couple weeks, I'll be 90-10. If
Hmm.
I'm on vacation, let me tell you, it's definitely 70-30, and sometimes it's 50-50. Just depends because I'm going to enjoy myself on vacation.
You got to love it. Um, Any other myths that you think are in the industry that is really holding a lot of people back that if truth be known, maybe they could make faster and better progress?
One myth that I'll say that I also hear a lot is that you should stretch before you work out.
Hmm.
Um, the importance of a pre-workout stretch is it is very important, although it can be confusing for most people because you still want to warm your body up first because stretching is you want to increase the range of motion through a joint and you have to make sure you're warmed up first. I see a lot of people getting into the gym or a studio and going right into the stretch room to stretch before they warm up their body temperature. So that's a pretty big myth, I would say. um,
Yeah.
take take a good 5 minutes to warm up. Just walk on the treadmill, walk on, and it doesn't take much. And then getting into your stretching.
Another quick question.
Hmm.
Some of these are kind of like speedballs I'm throwing at you, but what are your
Okay.
thoughts on supplementation along with a good diet? I personally, I feel like we can't supplement ourselves into a healthy nutrition program, but we could add icing on the cake. I don't know what your thoughts are. We haven't had that discussion. So what are you thinking?
I think that supplements and vitamins, all of that is good. I think people use them as a crutch, and they shouldn't be substituted for a good diet. I do think as we age, certain supplements are incredibly important. I encourage all my clients to go have their blood work done so they really know what they need and have the doctor or nutritionist go through it with them so they understand. Like if you've been lethargic for a while and you're not feeling great, you might need B12. You might need a little bit more vitamin B. Um, so I'm not somebody who thinks you should just throw supplements at someone. I mean, I
Mhm.
believe in taking a multivitamin and I believe in getting your blood work done and figuring out, and that's what I do. I mean, I do take supplements, um, but it's based on my own blood work.
Do you recommend, at least at some point, most of your clients, or would you recommend it to the general population to get a blood pull, or is that something that maybe comes down the road? What are your thoughts, and where does that play in?
I'm sorry, to get a
To get
blood.
a blood draft, yeah, if somebody were to
Um,
get blood pulled.
I think it's very important. I think it tells a lot about you, and about where you are. So
Hmm.
yes, it's not that difficult to do. Um, Most insurance pays for all of it for the most part,
Hmm.
so it's worth it, especially as we age.
Hmm.
Especially, once we hit that 40, 45 years old and up, you're going to see things that you may not see. I like having my clients get their hormones checked after a certain age as well, usually 45 to 50.
Yeah. What are some of your challenges, Julie? I mean, you've been in the fitness industry for quite some time. Mentioned in the earlier part of the show that you saw the struggles that your parents had sort of ignited your interest in health and wellness and fitness. What would you say are your challenges today, or some of the challenges that maybe you've had and you've worked through those?
Mine is time.
Hmm.
So when people say I don't have the time to work out, I get it. Even though you think I'm doing it all day long, I'm really not. I'm coaching, just like you, and we're working with clients, but
Hmm.
I'm not working on myself. So finding the time and really um, carving that out for myself, I can be a challenge. And that was one of the things I've decided. Now I'm literally carving myself time to train and work out like I do a client, like I'm my own client. And then
Yeah.
with my business partner now, we train together 3 times a week. Um, we used to do it, and then in COVID got out of it, and now getting back into that again, the accountability, because I love accountability.
Yeah. Let's talk just a little bit about that, because I was going to ask you that anyway. How do you deal now? Because if most of your workouts are on Zoom, you're obviously not seeing people face to face, and that is one big difference.
Hmm.
I'm assuming is that accountability element. How do you work with your clients? Are you asking them to give you updates? Do you see who's checking in on your Zooms? How does that look?
I definitely do. I ask for updates with a lot of my clients in the beginning. Um, of a work of starting with them, I'll have them keep a food journal. So for, usually 3 to 5 weeks, we're touching base a couple times a week anyway about their food journal, even though I'm
Hmm.
only having them do a food journal for about 5 days. But then we're talking about it because that's how long it takes to really create a habit. Um, and then I have a pretty much open door policy, which may not work for everybody, but I tell people text me, call me, email me. I'll get back to you within 24 hours, usually within 12, usually even more. But even if it's a silly question, especially in the beginning, there's really no silly questions if it has to do with your health.
Hmm.
So I get texts a lot. Most everyone's really great about not texting at ridiculous times, but
Sure.
I do want accountability. I do want them to touch base with me. In addition, though, I ask them to find a buddy, find somebody who is a support of some sort, whether it's your husband, wife, or a best friend, a relative, somebody who you can go to for support.
What do you see as some of the roadblocks for people that you deal with? I mean, I certainly know some of the ones that I deal with, but what are some of the roadblocks? You mentioned time already, right? That
Hmm.
that seems to be sort of a an element of concern for a lot of people. Are there other major roadblocks? I think a lot of people think that their problems are just unique to them, but you find out that there's a lot of similarities in people's
Hmm.
issues of why they're not working out, why they're not eating well, all of those things. What are some of the things that you see that are really putting a halt on some of your clients' progress?
One that comes up a lot is motivation, and that's come up a lot in COVID. It's hard to motivate myself. it's hard to get going. It's, I just can't find that motivation to get going. And that's where a coach or a trainer really kicks in. Um, Motivation would be a big one. That's a
Yeah, I
very
would
big, it's
agree.
a big roadblock.
And you think that there has been a big change since we've started, or we've been in this COVID mentality for a while, that's been a big issue.
I think so. I think so. I think people, I mean, I think this COVID mentality has really, um, really affected our psyche, and it
Hmm.
has been hard. And you have a few people who've really gone the other way, but a lot of people are, they're used to the one-on-one. They're used to that energy. They're used to that. Now we don't have it, and they're having a hard time to pull it up, pull themselves up to find it within themselves.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get a little personal now. I've got to ask you this. What does a day of Julie Diamond's life look like? I mean, like you said earlier, you thought, some people may think that you just train, 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 train. But what does your day look like, Julie? What happens in the morning? I think people, if they have templates sometimes, I'm not saying everybody's going to follow yours, but, and they're certainly not going to likely follow mine. But what would be a typical day in Julie Diamond's life?
Wake up at 6:30 every morning, Monday through Friday. Um, and I start with that water that I told you about. So I will drink water, and then I will take the dog out, who I'm sure you've heard barking in the background.
Makes it real, doesn't it?
Makes
I
it
love
very
it.
real. And
Absolutely.
I need time in the morning. So 6:30 to 8 o'clock is my time. I meditate, I read. Um, and usually that's about 20 minutes where I meditate and then I read a couple passages that help inspire me. Um, and then I have coffee and breakfast. And I go through, then once I've, sort of settled in, I'll start going through emails and texts and answering emails and texts from clients or companies that I'm working with and whatnot. I do Instagram, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Then I take the dog out again. She gets a lot. Um, and then I set myself up. I mean, now I'm training out of my house for the most part, or I'm training at my business partner's house. So then I just, bring out the weights, bring out the programs. I go through the programs that I'm working on for the day. I usually have 7 to 9 clients a day. Um, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a Zoom class. I finish up work between 6 and 7 at night. In between, I set up in the morning, I'll set up the times that I'm going to eat throughout the day. Like I said, I'm much more of a grazer. Sometimes I'll set up in the morning my food for the day, even though I've pretty much already done that on the weekends. Um, and then comes 6, 7 o'clock, ready to make dinner, take the dog out again. It's really exciting. It's a very glamorous life out here in LA. And we just got news today. We're opening up again, 50% capacity.
Oh, wow.
So
That is
so
big
that could
news.
it's big news.
That is big
So
news.
yeah, and then I'm in bed early.
Yeah, I've gotten to
Yeah,
be. I used to not be that way, as we get a
yeah.
little older, though, that changes, and I become much more of a morning person. If you would have told me that I was going to be a morning person back when I was in college, I would
Oh
have said,
yeah, in
not
college,
gonna,
yeah.
not
But it's
gonna happen.
interesting that you bring that up because that's the other thing that I talk to my clients about constantly is sleep. That's when our body recovers.
Yeah,
And it's not necessarily the go, go, go. They think they're making all the difference in the workout. I have to remind them it's the recovery phase that's really making the difference. So if you just work out and you don't allow yourself any recovery, then you're not doing yourself very much good. And a
let's
lot of the recovery is sleep.
Yeah, let's talk just a moment about that recovery. How do you build recovery? You did mention you do the meditation in the morning. Um, do you build any other modalities recovery into your day or your week? What does that look like? I have mine. I'm lucky. My wife is a massage therapist,
Oh,
so
lucky.
I know it's pretty sweet. But I'm just like everybody else. If I fail to schedule, I don't get a massage. So,
Yeah.
what does that look like for you? What's your recovery mechanisms?
When I can, I'll do the infrared sauna. I have in my complex, I have a swimming pool. One's a saltwater pool and one is heated. And I'll go from one to the other. The one that is not heated is pretty damn cold, cold enough for me. So I'll do the cold plunge.
Oh, I love it.
Um, I love that. Yeah. It's a bittersweet relationship with that. And
Yeah.
then I'm a big fan of stretching, foam rolling. I'll use the hypervolt.
Hmm.
Um, and again, I'm a big fan of water. I think it does wonders for the body.
We have no water here this time of year. We have only ice in Missouri. So it's like, uh,
It's freezing there, huh?
yeah, it's a little bit cold, but I got it. I got it. You probably already recognize, right? The Kansas City
Yes,
Chiefs are on to the
I
Super Bowl
saw
again,
that.
so I'm
Yes,
supporting the Chiefs a little bit today. So,
good for
um,
you.
and I'm not really a fair weathered friend though, because we do have a few of them around here. Because I remember supporting them back when they win like one or two games the entire year back in the '80s. So it's sort of
Oh,
nice to have a chance to visit two Super Bowls and so it's
yes,
just a little bit. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be supporting him now.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit, Julie. Tell me, do you have like what are your recreational times? Do you get to do some things? It sounds like you're busy as heck on a daily schedule. How do you do that? I mean, how do you fit it into your busy schedule?
Usually the weekends. I love to hike. I love the beach. This year I took up surfing. So I took surfing lessons once or twice a week in the summertime when we were opened up. Loved that. I just started boxing,
Oh my goodness.
so that's really fun.
You scared me.
Um, I know, right? um, and then, then the typical just, I love going out to dinner with friends and socializing and that sort of thing.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
if again, I don't want to get too long in the tooth with all of this, and but I think that one of the things it would be important at this point in time to probably say, hey, uh, how if somebody wanted to dial in up on your program, and what would that look like if they were to reach out and say, hey, I just want to, maybe do an in-home class off of Zoom. How do I connect with Julie Diamond?
oh, that's easy. Just go to Julie Diamond Fitness and they can shoot me an email and I'll get them on my newsletter and I reply to everybody. So shoot me an email and I'll put them on my newsletter and or an inquiry if they ask um, any questions they want, what they're interested in, if they're interested in personal training, if they're just interested in Zoom, whatever. I get back to people within 24 hours. So I find
Okay.
that time for sure. So Julie Diamond Fitness is my website, and
Oh,
there's just a place there to contact me.
and I can add that to the show notes when we finish up. I can put it on
Okay,
Facebook, all of that good stuff. So people
excellent.
could reach out and get a hold of you
Sure.
if they would like to. And if somebody were to start, let's say, would are there different layers of your classes, or is it just jump in and go, but do it at your own pace? How do you coach through that?
Great question. Um, I give levels and I give modifications. So what I typically do is in the class, I'll give an exercise. And then with that exercise, I'll give a modification if you have injuries or you're just starting out. And then I'll give a progression to the exercise if you feel like you can do more and you're a little bit more advanced. And then I'll watch people on Zoom as much as I can to see, how their form is and how they're doing. And some people I'll say, you can try the progression a little bit. Other people, if I'm not loving what they're doing, I'll have them pull back a little bit. I really push if you need to modify, modify. If
Hmm.
you're injured, like give your time, I have to do it all the time. I actually had COVID over the holidays.
Oh,
So
wow.
coming back was, wow, really having to modify. So, and having to modify in my own class.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you've worked through it, obviously,
Yeah.
back to pretty much full health and everything?
Back to full health. I'm
That's
100%.
great. Good
Yeah.
job. Well, I actually went in for my first tier of vaccination today.
Oh, you did? How do you
Yes, yes,
feel?
I did. I feel wonderful.
Good.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that I went in and I've got this long sleeve shirt on and my Chiefs shirt over the top of that, and I walked in, I go, "You dumb butt, you walked in," and so I had to take my shirt off. I felt like a real moron. And, the gal did, and we're talking, and she goes, "Well, that's it." And I said, I didn't even realize that I got the shot. I mean,
Wow.
literally. I do remember her wiping it off with the alcohol swab, but I don't remember even getting the shot. So it was totally
And you're not
painless.
feeling anything now?
No, I still have to get my
That's great.
workout in tonight.
That's great. That's
No,
great.
I feel fantastic. I have no issues right now. I do know that a few folks that have had the COVID shot that have had a bit of a reaction to it.
Yeah. I've heard different
But
things.
yeah, everywhere from like minor soreness in the arm, and some people even had more flu-like symptoms and stuff. But
Right.
knock on wood, I feel fantastic, and
Good.
looking forward to getting my second one. I think it is February 15th or something like that.
Right. You have to
So
wait, what, 2 or 3 weeks, something like that.
exactly, yeah. But they really had it laid out very clean, and you walked in, went through. They identified that it was you, and then gave you a little card, and then some more information. You walk through these like sties that you go in, and uh, eventually you get to the final spot, and they call you back, and you're in and out. They do ask you to sit around for 15 minutes or so just to make sure that everything is okay.
Hmm.
Um, and there's sort of like this post waiting room when it's all over. But yeah, it
Uh-huh.
went really smoothly. So,
That's great. I
but
did when I had COVID, I did the monoclonal antibodies cocktail
oh yeah,
because I had asthma.
ah,
And because of the asthma, it was a pre-existing condition that they would allow. You either had to be, was it 60 or 65, or having some sort of pre-existing condition,
hmm.
and they accepted asthma. So I did get that cocktail,
Well,
and
that's
I felt
fantastic.
really much better afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I've heard nothing but good things in that regard as well. So, well, I hope we get through this mess, soon, and we
Me
kind of get
too.
back to some form of normal lifestyle that I do a lot of Zooms with my clients as well. I do miss some of the more face-to-face opportunities.
Hmm.
I think there's a place for both,
I
and
do
like
too.
for you, I'm excited that maybe some of our listeners might dial in and say, "Hey, Julie, I'd like to train with you." I've got a couple of gals that we work with. Casey Hazy is a great one. Kristen Reed, we've got two. One's does a little bit more in the area of personal training, and that's Casey. And then Kristen, she actually does our yoga classes that I kind of help oversee for. The school district here in Blue Springs purchased a YMCA, and
Oh,
so we actually have that facility to our disposal, and it's been a blessing.
it's great.
Kristen she does all of our yoga classes for us, but I would really encourage people to check out your stuff. I know you're so active on
Okay.
social media as well. As a matter of fact, I feel guilty because I see your stuff all the time, and I've never taken one of your classes yet. So I'm going to have to do that. No,
Everything
I,
Thursday, Mike. I'll send you the link.
okay. I don't like the way you looked at me when you said that and rubbed your hands. It's like, oh my God, you're going to beat up this old
No,
guy,
they're
right?
actually great fun. They're great fun. And I've recently brought on my business partner who does it with me. So we have a lot of fun. So it's just really, it's a great group actually. And everyone sort of knows each other. So many people know each other now. Some of the times I have like 35 people and people are chit chatting. Hi, like before we get on. So it's fun.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure that all of them are excited. You're so energetic. You've got you're a picture of health. I was joking with you earlier. You have zero body fat, right? And And that's that. I was just wondering, somebody that does 80-20, I still enjoy my wine and I like this and I like that. It's like, wait a minute, how do you have zero body fat at that level? And for women in particular, that's a difficult
It
challenge
is
for.
a challenge, especially after a certain age.
Yeah.
Once you hit menopause, perimenopause, and menopause. I think I've been lucky in a little bit of the genetics department. My identical twin and I both are, we never really had a weight problem.
Hmm.
But I think consistency, which is one thing we haven't talked about, which is a big word of mine. I've been consistent since my mid 20s.
I like
And
that. And I think that, you are absolutely right, Julie. I think that that's really overlooked. It's not to
mhm,
say somebody can't start when they're 45, somebody can't start when they're
correct.
50. However, if there has been consistency, it does help because your
Yes.
body is able to regulate and the metabolic processes are already in place and you're not starting from scratch. So I do think that's a very valid point, is that if you start early and you're consistent and you just drip with your nutrition, stay on track the best that you can, continue to move and continue to get exercise, add in those recovery mechanisms and modalities.
Right.
It's a big game changer. I think the
Yeah.
consistency is a term that's really overlooked.
I agree. I agree. So,
Well, again, anything else, Julie? You got to add. How do you want to close this out today? What do you want to tell us?
I want to tell that we are getting through this first and foremost, that we will get through it. And um, anybody interested in taking my Zoom, shoot me a email via Julie Diamond Fitness. And don't forget to drink your water. And it's doable. Like, don't, like, I want people not to feel like health and fitness has to be so daunting, because we see a lot of people out there just go, go, go. Just take the first step, take that baby step, and enjoy the journey, because it can be really fun.
Yeah, well, I thank you so much, Julie. You've been such an amazing guest, and I knew that you would be. Your energy, like I said earlier, shows through so well. And maybe we'll
Thank
get
you,
you back
Mike.
on here down the road and visit. Maybe give us some updates on things and how your business and everything's going. And I do encourage people to reach out. And like I said, I'll put it in the show notes so that they can at least catch up to you and maybe dial in on one of your classes then.
Love it. Thank you so much. It was an honor being on the show. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks again, Julie. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.